Hi everyone, it's Thursday and that means it's time for my collective worship. Now this week is Children's Mental Health Week, and if we think back to our worship on Monday, you'll remember that Mr. Bray taught to you about the difference between health and mental health. And when we think of the word health, we usually associate it with how our bodies are feeling, whether we're feeling fit and healthy or whether we're feeling a little bit poorly. And mental health is something different, isn't it? It's about how we feel in ourselves. So whether we feel happy and excited or surprised or a little bit worried or anxious about something that's going to happen. And today we're going to think a little bit more about how mental health and how it links to perseverance and how others can help us feel better in ourselves. So part of feeling healthy in our minds is about doing things that we like to do. Now, I know and you know that we can't always do fun activities, but there are times when we have the opportunity to do some of the things that we like to do. And it's a bit tricky at the moment, isn't it? Because we can't go and do our usual activities outside with our friends, and we can't go to swimming clubs or rainbows or cubs or anything like that. But there are some things that we can do at home with our family in our support bubbles. And I've put some photographs of some things and some images of some things that I really like to do, things that I love to do, and they're just simple things, but they give me a lot of pleasure. So I have got a photograph of a wheelbarrow and a garden there because I love to spend time in my garden. It doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it can look very muddy. It does at the moment, but I love to spend time out in the garden weeding or planting or trimming hedges and just generally being outside. Another image there is of some knitting, and that's not my knitting, but I do enjoy knitting, and it's something that I was taught to do when I was a child by my gran. My gran taught me and my sister how to knit, and so I've been doing it for quite a long time. But I still love to do it now. So sometimes of an evening or at the weekends, I'll often get some knitting out and watch the television or sit by the fire and just do some knitting. And it helps me to feel relaxed. The other photograph, actually, I'm covering it with my face at the moment, but it's of somebody reading. And I love to read, and I've always loved reading. Reading lots of different books. When I was at university, I read lots of information books, but now I love to read fiction mainly, and I spend a lot of time at home reading. And sometimes I read funny books, sometimes I read very serious books, sometimes I read books that make me laugh, sometimes I read stories that even make me cry. But I do get a lot of pleasure out of reading books and imagining myself in a different world with different people. And two of my favourite photographs on the screen are of my pets. And you can see Herbie, my dog, there looking very happy because he's in the woods, and Cub, my very serious but beautiful cat. And I love to spend time with Herbie and Cub, looking after them, feeding them, grooming them, just cuddling up to them. And those are very simple things, but they are things that really make me happy. Now, just because they're things that make me happy and things that I like to do, doesn't necessarily mean I'm always good at doing them. I think I'm pretty good at reading. I've had lots of practice and I am quite good at reading. And looking after my pets, I love looking after them, and I think I'm pretty good at looking after them because Herbie has always got a wagging tail and a smiley face, and Cub purrs and brushes past me quite a lot. So that tells me that I'm doing a really good job of looking after them. as for gardening, I love gardening, but my garden isn't as beautiful as I would like it. And I think that's probably because I'm not an expert at gardening. So sometimes I plant things in the wrong place and so they only last for a season, or sometimes I'm a little bit lazy and I don't get to do the weeding as much as I'd like. And as for knitting, I said to you earlier that my gran showed me how to knit. She taught me how to knit, but I'm not brilliant at it. And when my gran taught me how to knit when I was a girl, I just remember her knitting really fast, so she could really knit quite quickly, and within a couple of days she would knit something and it would look beautiful. So she used to knit cardigans or jumpers and things, and woolly hats and things like that. And I am a very basic knitter, so I can only knit very simple shapes, and I'm very slow, and actually after a while my hands start to ache. But it doesn't mean that I don't enjoy it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't help me to relax. So I keep doing it because it's something that I like to do. And that's important, isn't it? So some of the things that we enjoy doing, they don't necessarily have to be things that we're amazing at or brilliant at. And today's story is all about making mistakes, and that's something that we can all do, can't we? We can all get things wrong, or sometimes even though we take part in something, it doesn't quite go to plan. And today's story is about a character that happens to. So I hope you enjoy it. So today's story is called The Girl Who Never Made Mistakes. For Beatrice Bottomwell, Friday began like any other day. She matched her socks, and of course she put her shoes on their proper feet. She remembered to feed her hamster Humbert his favourite food, broccoli. And when she made a sandwich for her brother Carl's lunch, she used exactly the same amount of peanut butter and jam. When she stepped outside to greet her fans, she didn't forget to say, "Good morning" and "Thank you." They asked if she had made her bed. She had. They asked if she forgot to do her maths homework. Nope. What about tonight's talent show? They asked. I'm ready, said Beatrice with a smile. After all, her juggling act had won 3 years in a row. Most people in town didn't even know Beatrice's name. They just called her the girl who never makes mistakes, because for as long as anyone could remember, she never did. Now, unlike Beatrice, Carl made lots of mistakes. He ate his crayons and drew with his green beans. He danced with his hands and played the piano with his feet. Carl loved to make mistakes. At school, Beatrice was on the cooking team with her 2 best friends, Milly and Sarah. To make their giant rhubarb muffins, they needed 4 eggs. Beatrice went to the refrigerator and carefully chose the biggest, eggiest egg she could find. But on her way back, her legs slipped out from under her. The eggs went flying. Beatrice was about to make her first mistake. But she didn't. That was close, thought Beatrice. Sorry, Beatrice, I dropped a piece of rhubarb. Don't mention it, Milly. For the rest of the school day, Beatrice could not stop thinking about her almost mistake. On the way home from school, Beatrice watched Milly and Sarah ice skating in the park. Come join us, said Milly. It's fun, said Sarah. Beatrice watched them slip and slide on the frozen ice rink. Milly and Sarah laughed as they wobbled on the ice. No thanks, said Beatrice. At supper, Beatrice barely touched her food. Is everything all right, kiddo? Asked her father. "I'm worried I'll mess up tonight," said Beatrice, "and everyone will be watching." "Worry? You don't make mistakes," he said with a smile. Beatrice tried to smile too. After supper, Beatrice got ready for the talent show. First, she woke Humbert from his nap. Next, she got the salt shaker from the kitchen table. Finally, she filled a balloon with water. The school hall was packed. Beatrice felt her stomach jumping around inside. Beatrice waited for her juggling music to begin. "That's her! That's the girl who never makes mistakes," said a woman. "Oh, we know she'll be perfect," said a man. When the music started, she tossed Humbert up into the air. Next, she added the salt shaker, and finally the water balloon. Beatrice didn't miss a beat. The crowd clapped with delight. But Beatrice noticed something odd about the salt shaker. The specks falling out of it were not white. "Ah, ah, ah, achoo!" Humbert was so surprised by his own sneeze that he grabbed the water balloon with his claws. Pieces of water balloon and the pepper rained down on top of Beatrice. For the first time in as long as anyone could remember, Beatrice made a mistake, and it was a big one. The music stopped. Beatrice didn't know what to do. Cry? Run off the stage? The crowd sat stunned. They couldn't believe that the girl who never makes mistakes made a mistake. Beatrice looked up at Humbert. Humbert looked down at Beatrice. His hamster fur was soaked and speckled with bits of balloon. Beatrice let out a giggle. The giggle grew into a chuckle, and the chuckle became a laugh. The people in the crowd looked at each other and then back at Beatrice. They began to giggle, then chuckle, then finally roar with laughter. Beatrice and the audience laughed until they couldn't remember why they were laughing. That night, Beatrice slept as well as she ever had. In the morning, no fans greeted Beatrice. When she got dressed, Beatrice, for no reason at all, put a polka dot sock on one foot and a plaid sock on the other. Beatrice and Carl made sandwiches. This time they put the peanut butter and the jam on the outside. They called it the Inside Out PM&J. Lunch was messy and delicious. Later, Beatrice found Millie and Sarah skating on the ice rink. They fell a lot and laughed. And now, people no longer call her the girl that never makes mistakes. They just call her Beatrice. So we're coming to the end of our worship for today, but before we go, let's have a little moment to think about the story. Think about Beatrice. I think she's what you might call a perfectionist, but she learnt that it's more important to enjoy things that you do than worry about always doing them perfectly. Beatrice showed real resilience in staying on that stage and not giving up. It was very brave to have a little chuckle at yourself when something doesn't quite go to plan. As we reflect, think about activities that you enjoy doing and how they make you feel inside. Satisfied, calm, excited, happy. We're going to say a short prayer now. So put your hands together, and if you agree, you can say Amen at the end. Dear God, Help us to smile and laugh when we feel happy. Help us to feel comforted when we feel sad. Help us to feel reassured when something is tricky or doesn't go to plan. We thank you for simple things that give us lots of pleasure. Amen. That's the end of our worship for today, so please join me next time. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now.